Hi guys! Welcome to my second video, and that's for second. Now I just look really super Asian. So I just thought I would share my testimony and my journey as a Christian in the industry, as an actress. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I just felt like when I was starting off as an actress, I found it really hard to find Christian actors in the industry. Now that it has happened, I realize that there are a lot, but at the time I just kind of felt like I was in this middle ground or grey area where I was like, am I supposed to pursue something? Because, a lot of Christians or a lot of people will try to make you feel like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, that you're not supposed to be doing that because it's ungodly. But I just felt like I should share my testimony so that it can encourage and empower other people who potentially might be pursuing acting or the entertainment industry. So just a little bit of a background, or my testimony, I guess, in terms of how I became an actress and then how I became a Christian. So I was a physiotherapist, or physical therapy, if you Americans call it. And I did that for about 3 years full time, and I got really bored, and I did modeling, a little bit of modeling when I was in university, but that kind of died. So I was kind of bored at night time, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to start doing acting classes, because I had a few actors around me, which I thought was pretty cool how God pursued the creatives in my life. Because if you saw me in high school, I was very academic. The only thing that I probably did that was creative was play the piano and try to draw, and I wasn't particularly the best at it. But I wasn't particularly a person that had high self-esteem or even just confidence enough to be able to say, I want to be in front of a camera and be the lead. So yeah, acting was never something that I kind of grew up wanting to be. As much as other people, they're like, I've always wanted to be an actress. And I was like, no, I never wanted to be one. It never really crossed my mind. But how God, chases up and puts desires in our heart, it's pretty crazy. So how did I start? So basically, when I started doing acting, I actually wasn't technically saved. So I went to a church when I was young, and I grew up in a Christian family, but I wasn't really pursuing God at the time. So I was having sex, I wasn't going to church, I was swearing a lot, I was doing all that, naughty stuff, which is fine. It kind of taught me who I am and taught me to be the person that I am. And I have a lot of grace for people that were in the position or are in the position that I was in, because I think it's part of being human and finding Jesus. But basically, when I first started becoming a Christian, I had no boundaries, and basically, by the grace of the Lord, He did not give me any roles. So I was doing modeling at the time while I was pursuing acting classes, and again, that's another story, but basically He opened doors for me to help build up my self-confidence, and noticed that potentially I had a shot at the fashion entertainment industry. So I never thought I would get work, but all of a sudden I was starting to book stuff for Qantas or Tourism Australia or Just Cuts or Fitness First, and it kind of really built up my confidence, where I was like, wow, okay, I probably have a chance to do acting. So as I was getting into acting, God kind of never gave me a job for about 2 years. So I was pursuing acting for about 2 years. I was doing classes. I already had an agent, but I had no boundaries in terms of what auditions I was taking. So basically, if they told me to go topless or nude, I probably would have done it, because I just didn't have the conviction. And I was on my own journey with God. So when I was pursuing the Lord, I didn't have a lot of Christian friends because I got burnt from the church. So when I came back to church, which was Hillsong, all I used to do was just sit with a girlfriend, and we would sit at the back and literally listen to the sermon and then leave before people finished up singing worship songs. So I did that for about 2 years. So yeah, while I was at the beginning of acting, I was kind of like a lukewarm Christian. I was still having sex. And yeah, I had no boundaries in terms of I would have gone nude and sworn and done everything and done a lot of witchcraft and that kind of stuff, roles, and I even auditioned for them. And how God really changed my heart was pretty crazy in terms of the more I kind of pursued the Lord, the more he convicted me of what was right and what was wrong. And eventually I stopped having cravings in terms of wanting to swear or wanting to pursue ungodly things. And so I was trying to not pursue them in my normal life, that when I started to do them in auditions and in terms of like acting classes, I found them quite uncomfortable. So I just think it was pretty crazy how God never used anybody to judge me, because I was already judged when I was in my church when I was young, that he didn't use people to judge me when I first got into acting. He was kind of just convicting me through the Holy Spirit, which was really amazing. So in terms of, that's my kind of my overall testimony of how I've come to where I am now. And so it's funny. So basically in the last year, last year I was going to throw in the towel because I was getting very frustrated with God and saying, God, you know what's going on? Obviously, I'm not supposed to pursue acting. I'm not supposed to pursue it because I haven't received a job. I did one guest role on a show called Hide and Seek, and basically nothing else happened after that. So I was about a year of no work, maybe like one or two commercials, and as I was I had one audition, my last audition, where I had to play an international student, so I had to put a Chinese accent, and I was saying in my head, I was like, God, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to message my agent. I'm going to tell him, that's it. I'm done. I don't want to do acting anymore. Obviously, it's not for me. I felt bad because he was obviously working so hard for me, trying to get all these auditions, and I wasn't really landing anything. And so I thought, you know what, Lord, I'm done. I'm obviously not supposed to be an actress. And so I was going to do this last audition, and I wasn't even that excited about it. But I just thought, you know what? It's a great role. Whatever. I'll just do it. And I'll probably message my agent saying, look, I'm done. And it's funny how that role was a role that I booked, which was Dead Lucky SBS, where I was a supporting actress. And yeah, it was pretty awesome, where I was playing a Christian girl, international girl, who, yeah, like obviously part of a big part of the storyline. So I got to work for about 6 weeks on this TV show. So yeah, it was funny how God just wanted me to take away my eyes from acting and more into him. And then he kind of opened up the doors. And I always thought that, you know what, I'm never going to be able to work in this industry as an actress, as a Christian, because obviously everything's ungodly and I'm never going to be able to have a clean role. And he completely blew my mind in terms of, there are definitely roles that are out there that are not swearing, not sexual, not ungodly, that still are highly creative. So that was my first role on TV, which was so freaking awesome. And then right after that, we did Trop Fest, where these people that I met from church, it was a whole group of us, and through a friend of a friend of a friend, we met this guy who was a director at Hillsong, as well as another friend of a friend that went to C3 that was a producer, and I kind of hooked them up, and then all of a sudden we started making something for Trop Fest, not thinking much that we're going to win anything or be in the finale or whatever, but that ended up being in the finals, as a finalist, top 16 for Trop Fest, and that was this year, or beginning of this year, where it was based on a true story of a Christian couple. And then also, what else God has blown my mind is basically, right after that, I was going to have a trip to LA, and I just kept on feeling in my spirit, I was like, oh, God, I think I'm going to get a role. I'm going to get a role soon. And even one of my friends kept on going, look, we got to book accommodation. I said, you know what, I'm going to get something soon. I don't think I'm going to go to LA. And he's like, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, seriously, I feel like there's something happening in my spirit and I feel like I'm going to get something. And legit, within 2 months, which I knew that was when we were supposed to go to LA, basically I get a call saying that I'm going for Larry Moss's workshop. And my friend was like, is that the thing? And I'm like, no, there's definitely something else. And literally on the last day of the Larry Moss workshop, I get a call from my agent saying, you're going to Fiji, you're doing a Hallmark film, and they're going to fly you over, and you're at a 5-star resort, and you're going to... Anyway, that's a completely different story. But anyway, basically what happened was God opened up another opportunity where it was completely clean. It was in an American accent, on an island, and... there you go. So what I'm trying to say is things can happen and things are definitely out there. And so I want to encourage all of you that are questioning whether you're supposed to be in the industry or not. You are supposed to be in it, because if God didn't want you to be in it, he wouldn't give you the desire to be an actress or an actor or a producer or a director. And the reason why we're in this industry overall is because we're supposed to reach people that don't know about Jesus, and the stories behind that is pretty phenomenal in terms of I was able to be in Fiji, and at the end of our Fijian trip, literally all these people that I met on set who weren't Christian were praying over their food because I was doing it from day one. So it was pretty awesome how God plants these seeds into people's hearts, and all you can do is just shine a light and love on people on set, because how is God going to bring Jesus into the entertainment industry? He has to use us. So there are questions that I had when I was starting off in terms of agencies, auditions, obviously common questions that you come across when you are starting off. So the first thing is agents. So as a Christian actress, obviously it's important to find an agent that will work for you, and also someone who will respect turning things down that do not suit you. So I've actually had 3 acting agencies. The first one I only lasted for about a month, where I just felt like I had to leave, and they ended up going bankrupt, which was crazy. And then the second one, she was actually super, super lovely, and that actually, in a way, I was a bit impatient with going. I wanted to be in America, I wanted to have a US agent, and things weren't happening, and it wasn't really her, it was more I was impatient. But I ended up moving in terms of to another agency who is my current agent, who is amazing. So in terms of, again, when I first started being with him, I again had no boundaries. So I was doing roles where it was, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where I was, taking off my top and that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden I started getting convicted. So I started having to turn things down. And I had a lot of Christian friends who were saying, you know what, God is your agent. And I was like, wow, that was the biggest word that someone ever gave to me, was God is your agent. So trust that he will close the doors that aren't supposed to be for you, and he will open the doors that are supposed to be for you. So that was pretty amazing. So I always had that, and it's still, like, you do get a bit fearful, or you do get a bit anxious going, okay, how am I going to turn this down? Like, what are they going to think of me? I feel uncomfortable doing this kind of role, that kind of role. And I think what it is at the beginning, you just have to, I don't think it's wise to say to your agent, look, you know what, I'm not going to do this and that and that and that and that. I think there's wisdom in terms of going, look, you know what, seeing how they go. And I think if you've prayed over it and God has said, yes, this is your agent because I have ordained them for you, I think you will have peace. Because I actually, when I was switching from my last agent to this agent, I emailed quite a few agencies in Australia, in Sydney, and I prayed over it and I said, Lord, you know what, please just close a door that is not supposed to be for me and open the door that is supposed to be for me. And I had 2 friends that were already with this agency, so I knew he was already amazing, but I was still giving it to God and going, God, you know what, you know the person's heart, you know where they're going to take me, and plus you're my agent, so I trust you. So I had 2 meetings with 2 people, the one that I'm currently signed with and another one, and I'm not going to say the name, basically, and I said, God, make it really clear who I should get with. And I went to one meeting and I was like, yeah, boom, this is amazing. And then the second one, Again, I'm not mentioning any names, but he was highly unprofessional. He started, kind of putting other actors down in front of me on his book, saying that he was going to drop them, and just watching my videos in front of me. And I was like, okay, you haven't really watched my videos, then why did you ask me for a meeting? And while obviously my agent now, that meeting went so well, and he was highly professional, and I just had a lot of peace. So yeah, it's just been amazing, because when I've been with him, I would turn things down and he would be very respectful. I don't say, oh, because I'm super religious. I just go, look, I'm not very comfortable with doing this. I'm just going to turn this one down and go for the next one. And he is highly respectful and goes, okay, no worries. I don't want you to do anything that you're uncomfortable with, so we'll just wait for the next one. So I think what is most important is that you pray over your agent and say, Lord, you bring in the right agent who will stand up for who I am and what I stand for, and be respectful for my religious values and my religious views. So that is absolutely important that you give it to God. So I've just tackled the agent as well as auditions. And what I would say with auditions, whether you're Christian or not Christian, I think that it's important that you know where you want to go and what kind of roles you want to play. Because if you want to play those hardcore druggy roles, even though in real life we shouldn't be doing drugs, I don't think you should be turning it down, because you're representing the story. So I think it all comes down to personal preference of where you feel God is taking you and what kind of story God is telling you to tell. Because again, I think someone also really said to me that was so, it really touched my heart. It was basically saying someone has to play Judas in The Passion of Christ. So I was like, oh, damn, that's pretty deep. So, just because you're playing a horrible character doesn't mean you're that person. But I think in the end, you have to pray about it and say, God, is this a story that I need to tell? And you might kind of balance on and off. So what I found that is when I first became Christian, and then I started getting convicted of the things that I should or shouldn't be doing, I felt that I kind of went one way where I was like, you know what, I'm toning everything down because it's ungodly, there's that thing and this thing and that. And then you go, obviously you kind of find that good balance of going, okay, well, actually, this is the story, this is the message, what are they trying to say? Okay, you know what, I want to be a part of it. And then, you'll audition. But yeah, I would say whoever you have as an agent will respect what you turn down, and pray that God also softens their heart and that they respect what you want to do. Okay, so the second thing is being on set. So what I found was that being on set, this is a huge one, and obviously every single set is different. And the question would be, when you're on set, do you want to be open and vocal about being a Christian? I think it takes wisdom in terms of whether you want to say that you're a Christian from day one, or whether you want to say that you're a Christian day 10 and people are like, oh, that makes sense. What I find was that I think that you need to be the light. So I think that either way, whether you say that you're Christian or not, you need to love on everybody on set and be an example, and not just say, I'm a Christian, but then you're gossiping about people, you're being mean to them, you have no boundaries and that kind of stuff. I think that it's more important to act the way that God tells us to act, rather than saying all these empty words of, I'm a Christian, believe in Jesus, Jesus loves you, oh yeah, let me pray for you, but then the rest of the 24 hours you're kind of not acting very loving, or gossiping about other people. So what I would say would be, I think the Lord will open opportunities for you to speak about Jesus to people that He needs you to minister to. And some people may not be you don't have to minister to everybody. What I found is that you just need to be. And I have pretty phenomenal testimonies of being on set where, I kind of slowly kind of added it in, because I just didn't want people to make an assumption of who they think I am rather than giving them who I actually am. Because I think like there is a bad connotation of being religious, particularly in Australia, where they say, you know, you're a Christian, you're a bigot, you must hate gay people. And I was like, oh, okay, like I didn't say anything. I love gay people. My agent is gay. So I don't understand why, you know, well, I mean, I understand why, but I don't want to have people making a first quick judgment of my character before I've shown them that. So I think that it's actually important to live the way that you say that you will live. And I think just everything will kind of come slowly and naturally, because I think God will open up natural conversations, and you know, things can be kind of slid in terms of like, oh yeah, you know, I went to church the weekend, when they asked you how the weekend was. Or I had another thing where, you know, I brought a Hillsong book because I was reading a book on set because you got a lot of time off, and yeah, I was just reading it, and you know, someone picked up my book and they're like, oh, this is a cool book, like what is it about? And I was like, oh, well, yeah, let me tell you about Jesus. So, I mean, it's not always about Jesus. It's all about, you know, loving on people. Oh, obviously, it is about Jesus. But in terms of, like, I don't think it has to be a pressure and a strain to speak about it. I think it will naturally just happen. And people will receive it much better when you actually listen to them as well in their life. And at the end go, you know what, can I pray for you? And let it be something that's more loving rather than it be like extreme and hard, because no one's going to receive it very well when you go, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. That's not going to win them. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is faith and works. So what I found was that I do have a lot of Christian friends in Australia who are actors, and I think sometimes as a Christian, sometimes people can be a little bit, oh dear, it's red. I find that when people